in one word is human-made.
Other than work, what are you passionate about?
Exciting, I would pick it up, like my jumkas I have, for example, today.
How would you describe or define culture in your own words?
Hayırlı bir evlat olmak.
Okay.
Culture indeed helps. It gives you a bit of guidance.
Conflict between your personal values and your cultural expectations?
So, you know, these typical aunties and uncles asking you, it was a bit too warm-hearted for me.
Welcome to Unfiltered Culture, everyone, where we talk about people's experiences in culture in general. Here we go again with another episode. I'm your host, Aman. We're excited to have Merve with us today. Welcome to the show. Can you say something? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes,
and what you do?
Of course. I'm Merve. I'm living in Munich. I'm 31 years old. Working in the IT industry. And yeah, what else do you want to know?
Very welcome. This question gets everybody always invite them to tell a lot, but I just mean small things. Okay. So anyways, thank you for coming to the show. I appreciate it. Would you like to say something interesting first? What is happening in your life right now?
Mm-hmm.
Exciting, of course.
Exciting. I don't know if it's exciting for other people, but I'm right now in a phase in my life where it's a lot about being more mature, about adulthood, making big decisions, perhaps. Building your own family, looking around for a more, stable household or a new home, perhaps, which you can call new home for yourself. So these kind of adulthood stuff, which is perhaps not super exciting, but it is indeed exciting if you're going through these things.
For yourself, it is exciting.
Yeah,
what is the question exactly about?
Exactly.
That's also, it's good. I'm excited to hear that happening for you right now. Can you share a little bit about your background and where you're from?
Mm-hmm. So I was born and raised up in Germany. So I spent most of my life in Germany.
Okay.
Also working here. But my parents are originally from Turkey. Okay. So basically my grandparents came. It's a typical, Gastarbeiter background, which a lot of people are familiar with in Germany, I think. So my grandparents back then came in the 1970s, 60s, came to Germany. And my father is also born in Turkey, but was raised up most of his life in Germany. My mom came later after getting married to my dad to Germany. So that's why I would call it definitely my background, even though, friends sometimes say, oh, you're born and raised up in Germany, so you're German. So, but in the end, I have a background. I have the Turkish background, which I very much embrace. But in general, I would say I'm open also to other cultures, and whatever it is, if there's something exciting, I would pick it up, like my jumkas I have, for example, today.
Ah, nice. That's from India?
Yeah, it's an Indian jewelry, which they call jumka, and I like it because it makes a sound.
It's interesting.
They're looking beautiful, and even though it's perhaps not my heritage, I would wear it. I like it.
The Indian thing has another story behind it.
Yeah, it has. To be fair, it has. But in general, it is like that, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. So what do you do for work?
I'm in the field of cloud computing, to be specific, so broader IT field, where I do have a technical role for my customers. So I'm client-facing. I'm working for a global employer, which is really, I guess everyone would know.
What inspired you to pursue that career? Or were you always like IT girl, or it's just...
Not at all, to be honest. So to be honest, if I think back in school, I always thought, and that was a bit different times. As I said, I'm 31 years old, so it was a bit different times, perhaps, if I call it. I don't wanna sound old, but back in school it was IT or mathematics. These science-based or mint-based subjects were more still male dominant, and I thought back then I actually volunteered for IT subject, computer science subject, but I always thought, okay, this is not for me, even though I did the subject, because I was thinking, okay, it's mainly only guys doing the course, and I was not feeling I would not feel myself comfortable back then, I think. And that's why I always thought I will be, you know, more this international business, I don't know, perhaps not CEO, but, you know, something more in the leading managerial role. And that's where I also started to study business administration.
All right.
Yeah, I worked in IT consulting basically, but which was more about strategy, so not really
That's
technical.
how you started?
Yeah, that's how I started.
Okay, so that means you start working in Munich.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I started.
So you study also in Munich, or?
No, I studied in another city near Frankfurt.
Okay.
But Munich was my city of choice for sure. So I moved.
I think everybody loved Munich.
Yeah, so. I love it here too. Yeah.
All right. And I can hear a lot of passion. But other than work, what are you passionate about?
Other than work, okay. Yeah. I think I can say that I'm in general passionate about different cultures and languages. Indeed, that's why I also learned multiple languages, also starting from school times.
How many languages do you speak? I mean, everybody can speak a few languages. Just say hi, but
yeah, I guess on that's that's also an interesting story. I was raised up actually with 3 languages, if I can call this way. As I said, my parents are from Turkey, but our ancestors, both from my parents' side, came from Georgia, and that's why Georgian was a language my grandparents used to talk a lot. Or when we went to Turkey, to their village where my grandparents grew up, they only talk or mostly talk Georgish, and that's why I would not say I'm super fluent in it, but I still do understand it. And that's why I would definitely call these languages. But I volunteered to learn Spanish later in school, French, Japanese. But I forgot a lot though in that language.
Japanese, I didn't expect that one.
Yeah, that was also some phase perhaps in my life where I was totally into the culture, into the country.
Nice. If you speak so many languages, try to learn new languages, the next question would be very interesting for you. How would you describe or define culture in your own words?
Okay. Yeah. Well, for me, culture is indeed something which we human beings, mostly in the context of society, do create. This is culture. So for me, culture in one word is human-made. Indeed. Okay.
Interesting way to describe it.
Yeah, I think there are multiple definitions perhaps, but to be general, that's my definition. And for me, for example, the opposite of culture would be nature, which is not human-made, but which is there. It is there. Of course, we influence the nature a lot, but contrary to culture, it's not 100% in our influence. Mm-hmm. And yeah. That's how I came to my personal definition of culture, I think.
Okay, personal. Can you share a personal story or something happens that highlights the importance of having a culture or having a culture background?
I think any new experience, when you're going through a new experience, going to a new country perhaps, or facing a situation which you haven't faced before, culture indeed helps. It gives you a bit of guidance. It gives you, some perhaps predefined evaluation, what is good, what is bad. Mm-hmm. I think for me, for example, when I did my semester abroad in Spain, and when I went to Spain, I of course experienced new stuff, even though I thought, I know the Spanish culture, it's so European, nothing will change. Mm-hmm. But I faced situations there which sometimes people were, for example, too too close to me or
Okay.
came too close or were talking super, about intimate stuff, where I was like, I know Turkish from Turkish culture too, that people are warm-hearted and also go into deep talks
Okay.
really fast. But I felt a bit, okay, this is a bit too much when I compare to what I'm used to. And it helped me back there to say, okay, it's something I don't appreciate. That's something I'm not used to. And
Yeah, I mean,
it helped me.
sometimes someone else's business should be someone else's business. I understand.
Indeed, to put it in that way, yeah, perhaps.
What aspect of your culture do you cherish the most?
Which aspect? Let me think. I do appreciate a lot of aspects.
Just if you have to define just one thing you would love about your Turkish culture, what would that be?
I think it's helping each other. I think that's indeed in part of the Turkish culture.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in a lot of cultures. I mean, I can't say German culture is so much different, but
Yeah.
helping even though you're a foreigner or even though it's just a neighbor, I think that's something I really appreciate. And you see the good in people. You can go to other people and ask for help, and you can be sure that most probably these people will help you. And that's what I really appreciate, yeah.
Oh, nice. So have you ever felt a conflict between your personal values and your cultural expectations?
My personal values and cultural expectations.
Yeah.
Mm,
Because I know you like
yeah.
this
Yeah.
discussion.
So I think when it comes to expectations, it's more about a bit the social pressure.
Okay.
I can talk perhaps about the Turkish culture, but I also know it from other cultures too, where it's a bit social pressure, to stick to norms, so expectations. For example, at an age that you have a family, that you have kids, that you're married and happy. These are kind of expectations, and there's a social pressure there also. So, these typical aunties and uncles asking you, hey, when are you getting married? Or, stuff like that.
I think that's worse in every culture for the females, right? In every culture.
Yeah, I think so. As a female, you feel
Get
more.
a lot of pressure.
Yes. Yeah. Somehow, yes. And that doesn't fit in my personal values because, as said, I like to be warm-hearted. I like to be open and honest. But there's some things which is my private life, and I don't want random, without being disrespectful, random uncles and aunties asking about my private life. When I'm getting married or whatever.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, how does your culture background shapes your views on success and happiness?
On success and happiness. As said before, like when I go to the Turkish culture, which is a big part of my personal identity, of course, I feel like the success being, happy family, having your own family, of course, kids, being financially stable is something. But as said, I do not fully agree. I think you can feel accomplished and fulfilled even though you don't have a family or your own family in that sense. But what shaped me is having this idea of being how to translate this. So we have a saying in Turkish where we raise up kids to be good and helpful to the society. So
you can say it in Turkish. I would love to hear how it sounds.
Hayırlı bir evlat olmak.
Okay.
So this is the ultimate goal of children's education. In other, perhaps if I may compare to European cultures or more Western cultures where it's more about individualism, perhaps the primary goal of parents raising their kids, it's perhaps independence. They should be independent members and bit more individualistic perhaps. Okay. But in Turkish culture, you raise up a kid being a good member of the society, of the country or of the planet, if you may see it holistically a bit more. So these are different things, but I guess the Turkish version of that being helpful member shaped me indeed, even though I have my dualistic traits too, of course.
Right.
But for example, if I work or if I want to accomplish, like for example, this IT career path, which I started way later because I would not see myself previously in that position, I started from the belief of saying, oh, how should I achieve it if no one else around me achieved it? Or, oh, I'm a woman, I'm young, so can I do that? Will I be respected? And putting all this behind and saying, hey, I should be a good member. I should be perhaps a role model for other people, for not for the world. I don't want to put it too big, but for my own family, for my own cousins. And that's why I started it. It motivated me to be a good person.
I mean, it makes. I just want to say one thing. You should never compare yourself to anyone else. You should compare yourself with your previous self or future self to another other people or other person. So, thank you.
That's indeed.
How has exposure to other cultures impacted your understanding of your own culture?
Mm-hmm. I would compare it that way. If you're not exposed to other cultures, then you're kind of in your own bubble, right?
Mm.
You're not really aware of your own identity, cultural identity, but being exposed, you get to know that. And as said, I was in Spain where I got to know, okay, I'm super warm-hearted, but the Spanish way, and I was in south of Spanish, which is a bit different, it was a bit too warm-hearted for me. Like, as an example, I was sitting in the bus and people like coming and chatting with, yeah, where you going, what you doing? And I'm like, I don't know you. This is way too much, perhaps. I'm not that warm-hearted.
I think that gets also a bit of the German side of the in you.
It's my
Maybe
German
that's also
side.
German side.
Yeah, that's another tricky thing, yeah.
Germans is a very bit tricky, but once you get to understand them, they're very nice. But
they're really nice.
To get into that one is a bit.
Yeah, indeed, perhaps it was more my German side. I don't know. There I'm also not sure which comes from what part. To be honest, it's a mix, and I love it, to be honest, to be a mix.
We talk about tradition. Yeah, let's move on to that one. Is there any tradition within your friends or your family that was like passed down to you, or do you have any tradition made up with your friends and family?
Mm-hmm. These things like inviting people over and cooking food for them or cooking food together, that's something I do regularly with my friends and really enjoy that. Or with my, let me think, what other traditions do I have? Oh, the Turkish brunch tradition. Like Turkish breakfast is the best breakfast ever, like in the world.
I can say, I can confirm that, it's true. So,
and that's something I love to do with friends too, even though it's nothing specific on which you do on specific days or whatever. But if you have time on a weekend, most usually it is on a weekend because it takes time to prepare, then I invite people over for a Turkish brunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we talk about tradition, you have like traditions from way back in time, let's say 80s or 90s, whatever. Can tradition evolve? Or should it remain the same, and why?
Definitely, it should evolve, change. Some traditions should be get rid of, for sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Give us one or two examples what you want to keep and get rid of.
Okay, let's start with a simple example of Turkish culture again. Like perhaps before Corona or even long time before, I think it was a tradition to kiss the hand of elder people because that's how you show respect, especially to your grandparents, or even if visitors come over and there's an elder person, you would kiss it, like basically take the hand of the person, kiss on the on the hand, and then put it on your forehead.
Okay.
I'm missing the words. Yes, this was a tradition which we used to do for multiple years, but that already changed. I don't know when exactly, I can't tell, but I guess in the last 1-2 decades it changed to put it on your chin instead of kissing, because it's an intimate gesture, of course.
Okay.
So you really put it on your chin and then on your forehead. This is a small example which changed. It's good that it changed. I mean, latest with Corona, it should have changed anyway, but it, I think, started changing before that too.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but going on to big traditions, like when we have our Eid, where we do we have once a year, according to the Islamic calendar, there is a Eid where we do sacrifice an animal in favor or in the name of God, of Allah. And that's something it is not get rid of. But for me personally, I don't see the benefit of sacrificing an animal in each family, because nowadays we don't eat that much meat, so it's a bit wasteful, I would say. And I would say the tradition behind it is really sacrifice an animal and distribute it to neighbors or
to give away.
Yes, exactly. It's not for your own consumption only. But as said, nowadays I think, I don't know if meat is the primary need of people, even if they're in need.
Yeah, everybody has no different needs. Makes sense.
Exactly. Then it makes sense to donate perhaps money or help in an educational project or whatever. I think these kind of traditions are things which should evolve with time.
Very nice. Very
yeah.
Nice. So let's move on to something interesting.
Okay.
I have a topic here. It says love life.
Yeah.
So let's start with your sister.
Yeah. The biggest love in my life.
What does your sister means to you?
My sister means...
I don't have a napkin here, so please don't cry.
Okay, I try not to cry. Super emotional topic for me. Actually, my sister has a special place in my life. Like, I have not only a younger sister, I also have an elder brother, and I feel the same about my brother too. So as siblings, we have a super close relationship where we share a lot, we were there, we support each other, and I'm sure whatever will happen in life, we will stick together. But especially with my younger sister, since we are also, we are living currently together by choice, not because we need to.
I mean, I will ask your sister that, but okay, go on.
She loves to live with me. And that's why she has a special place for me in my heart. She's... as said, my sister, but she's also, she would find it cringe perhaps, but she's also my BFF, best friend. And she's also sometimes my teacher, so she teaches me all this Gen Z stuff, because I don't want to, sound and look old, so I ask her, what does this mean again? So she's also my teacher, but she, as said, she's my
everything,
party person, my everything. So yeah.
I mean, she would love this when she hears this. She probably would cry or smile or laugh or dance.
I think she will find it cringe.
Okay,
let's see. In her words.
Let's see. You traveled a lot, right? And one of the destination was also Mumbai, India.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit why?
Yes,
and how it was.
Okay, that's the second person in my life. I guess. No, I don't want to put it in categories.
Second person. Okay.
No, it's another special person in my life. It's my boyfriend, who is also living in Germany, but originally came from India. And with him, we went last year to India. And, well, it doesn't have a lot to do with my boyfriend, even though it necessarily has to do with my boyfriend, but I was always interested in the Indian culture.
Oh, the boyfriend just came second. The Indian culture thing was first.
Perhaps I manifested it because I was watching all the movies. So it was not that my boyfriend came into my life and I was like, oh, the Indian culture is so exciting, let's go to India. I always wanted to go to India. I don't know, I started as a teenage girl, I think. I started...
The earrings also exhibits.
The earrings, yes, definitely.
Yes. By the way, we had your boyfriend on the podcast, so check that out. Don't forget. And then he also said something about his girlfriend and what happened. So check that episode and then come back to this one. So go on. Sorry.
Definitely. It's a bit mean because I haven't watched this episode neither. It's not released yet. So I don't know what he told. So, yeah, I will watch it too.
It's like, I mean, how is Indian for you? Is it, I mean, from what I heard, I've never been there. I would love to go. But Mumbai airport?
Oof, yeah. Yes, so that was before going to India, my boyfriend, of course, prepared me and said, hey, it's full. It's not always like in these Bollywood movies, right? When you see these rich Khan families or Kapoor's families. It's a bit, of course, crowded, especially if you arrive at the airport or are in a public environment. But I was like, no, I will be fine. I will love it. And then we landed in Mumbai. We came out of the airport. The first thing I felt was this heat coming towards me when the doors opened.
It's hot, yeah, okay.
It was damn hot, and we went in, I think it was October or November, so in Germany it was pretty cold back then. It was a super big difference. That was fine. I was like, okay, I can handle this. But with the heat, the second thing was the sound.
Because a lot of people,
everything, a lot of people, the sounds, the everything was like, and in that moment, I already lost myself. If my boyfriend, I really lost it. I was like, if my boyfriend wouldn't be there, I wouldn't even go right or left. I was completely gone. It was too much to handle.
That kind of culture shock, it gets to people. I mean, in Turkey, people just walk. I've been to Istanbul, people just walk and like, as if you have a bunch of people in the city, you just walk, nothing happens, you go left. But it's not the same in India. I think probably that's what you thought. In India, we do and in Turkey, we do this every day, so let's...
Exactly. I underestimated it. In the end, it's manageable to everyone who wants to go to India. I mean, that was my first impression. You will feel it too, especially coming perhaps from other countries where you're perhaps not exposed to this, mega Asian cities. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in general, I super enjoyed the Indian trip and I'm missing it already. But this first impression, that was a pure culture shock right into your face.
Nice. Would you go again?
Definitely. As said, I really miss the country, even though it's not my home country. But I do miss going there. I really enjoyed it there. Of course, Turkey has another place for me. I do miss Turkey a lot too. But I can say India it felt like, I don't know if I can call it home. It's still different to me, of course, from what I know. But I felt comfy there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, food in Indian. Mm-hmm. And how was it? Just give us
previously, when I went to Indian restaurants in Germany, I loved the food too.
I heard you eat a lot Indian food.
Yes, I eat a lot Indian food.
Okay,
yep.
Go on.
So I super could enjoy going to an Indian restaurant and I liked it. But going to India, I really tasted how Indian food really, really tastes. And since then, I can't eat in an Indian restaurant in Germany anymore. Everything tastes not as good as it was in India.
I mean, it's always the same. Anywhere you go is not the same as it was at home,
Yeah, but I don't know. With Indian food, it's totally, I don't know. They're like words apart from what you get here. And
it is. I totally understand you because food when my family cooks and I eat here in the Munich restaurants, not the same.
Not the same, right?
Also the same when I go back to Ethiopia and eat there in the restaurant and then come back here. As like two different worlds, as you said it. So you cannot compare those.
No, never.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a bit difficult. But how do you balance traditional expectations with the modern world view on your relationship, of course?
I guess in general, I do a mix and match in a sense of I take over all the traditions which I see value in, where I feel also connected. You can't always say, okay, this makes sense, I will take over. Sometimes you just feel emotional about some rituals or some traditions. You don't want to lose them for whatever reason it is there. I think it does not need to be explained in a scientific way always. These are take over, but there are other things I think where we need to adapt to the modern times, modern ages. And that's why I would say I, in general, do a mix and match. As said, for example, there's some religious days or national days, which I do celebrate. It's not so big, perhaps, like other people might do, but really trying to invite friends over or meeting the family on those days. I do these kind of things for sure. But there are other things where I'm like, okay, this is not,
Okay.
not modern anymore. Yeah.
Understandable. So, what does religion play in your cultural identity?
To be honest, a big role, because I feel, again, my interpretation, in Western world, you can pretty much distinguish between religion and culture. But when I look at to Turkish or to Turkey in general, I feel it's not so clear sometimes. These lines do blur a lot. Sometimes if you give up on a tradition, like for example sacrificing an animal, you feel like you're giving up on your religion perhaps partially, even though the true meaning is still there, you stick to it, but you give up
religion.
that part.
Religion's always this thing. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
There's one saying you follow, and you ask why, because it says so. So there's no right or wrong. So you cannot really. Maybe I understand.
No.
And how does how does your understanding for your religion evolve over time?
Okay, so I was raised up with Islamic values, with Islamist religion, because my grandparents themselves, they're pretty religious, I would say. So what I mean by that is they adhere or stick to the Islamic obligations, kind of like doing the namaz 5 times a day, etc. They all do these kind of things. My parents themselves, they do believe, but they're less practicing these things, but within themselves they have to believe. And with that in mind, or with that household, I started going to school. And all of a sudden there was Christmas in school. And I was like, why don't I get chocolate from my parents on Christmas?
That's how you said it. If you, in the beginning you said something interesting. If you stay only in one culture, you're just in your own bubble. And once you start going to a different culture, you understand, there is something new, which could be interesting for me. I don't have to believe in it, but it's funny or interesting. I can participate in it.
Yeah.
So it's a good point to that one. Let's go a bit to your life and work, and then I think we should slowly be reaching the end. You said something, you work in tech or IT. So your boyfriend is also in the same industry, right?
Yes.
But totally different subject than what you do.
No, I would not say totally different. He has more his focus on AI, which is different to my role. Like, of course, nowadays everything is in AI in tech. So I do AI too, but he's more focused on that subject. Whereas I would say cloud computing is still some common ground we are working in, I guess.
Yeah, anyways, when you now work in a modern world, as everywhere stress or like you work too much, how do you manage stress and maintaining well-being in a high-pressure work environment?
Physical activity. That's my answer. So for me personally, I found out over time that I need to do, workouts and I regularly go to the gym. That's my type of thing which I do, and I saw that the benefits of it, it's not about getting whatever biceps, triceps, sometimes it's about that too, but not always. But it's about this stress relief mechanism which kicks in when you do physical activity, and that's what I personally, that's
how you
high
balance
on
it
the list. Definitely high on the list for me.
Makes sense. Do you have any ways or to bring your own culture value into your workplace?
Yeah, definitely.
How do you do that?
Well, since I work in a really international company, which you would find, it is a bit like a small society we are working into, because there's so many people from different countries, ethnicities, different beliefs, everything coming together. And you're free, and that's the good part about my employer. It's good to bring in your culture. It's really good to bring in your own traditions, and they're being celebrated. So whatever part of the world you're coming from, if there's special days like Eid or Christmas or, I don't know, the Holy Festival, whatever it is, it's being celebrated. even the fasting month of Ramadan is being celebrated, and they
that's
have
nice.
they have food at these specific times for everyone who's
Just
doing it.
fasting.
Yeah, and I love
I
it.
mean, that's so cool. Then you would have a bit less stress. I mean, maybe a workload. Then okay, that makes sense.
But you feel comfortable, and it totally resonates with my own beliefs that it's great that we are different, but we can still get together and do great stuff together and really agree on some common ground.
Nice.
And that's why, I mean, it is not always the case, but in this case, with my employer, how it is, it totally resonates with my own beliefs, I think.
So you like where you are.
Yeah,
That's
I
what.
totally.
That's what all I'm hearing is. You like what you are.
I don't want to do advertisement. But please apply.
So, you said about different tradition, different culture. We talk a lot about it. So one thing I want to touch on is Indian, Turkey, tradition, food, wedding. So since you love so much about Indian, can you tell us one Indian dress or wedding outfit? Or what do you think you would wear on a wedding or an Indian wedding or any other wedding? So what is it?
It's a big difference, my answer. So in Indian wedding, I think the typical would be wearing a lehenga.
Okay. What is that? For
lehenga is, totally sorry.
We do not understand what you mean.
I'm in my Bollywood bubble sometimes, but the lehenga is this typical Indian dress the bride would wear, but also close friends or relatives would wear too. It's two-piece. The upper part is kind of a crop top.
Okay.
And underneath you have this, skirt, perhaps, how to call this, which goes really out like as a shape. And you have a kind of a scarf, shawl, scarf I would call it perhaps, around you. And that's a typical dressing. Of course, a lot of jewelry, like a tikka, this jewelry you have on your forehead. You have jhumkas on and everything, a lot of jewelry.
And I'm starting to think you're interested in Indian tradition wedding stuff because you will get a lot of gifts.
Perhaps one day, yeah.
So you will get a lot of gold because I talked about with your boyfriend as well, because in the tradition they gift a lot of gold in general.
Mm-hmm. Also in a Turkish family, so it's double.
So how was it? How big is the difference between your culture and Indian culture, the wedding ceremonial thing?
I mean, I don't want to put my boyfriend under pressure with all the knowledge I know about the differences and common things. I think that would pressure him. But I guess I already know a lot about both traditional marriages, and when I compare it, I think first of all the duration of a wedding. I think in India it's around about 5 days plus a reception you do, and that's crazy.
5 days wedding?
Yeah, 5 days wedding.
Mm-hmm. A lot of patience.
Well, some people nowadays also squeeze it in 2.5 days where they do half days, but still there are rituals you need to do on specific occasions, and they need to be followed. And in the Turkish culture, it's traditionally, I guess where my grandparents come from, in their village, there is this traditional thing to do a wedding 3 days and 3 nights, we call it. But I think looking at Turkey in general, it would be indeed, I think, like in Germany too, one day where you have your wedding. Previously, you would have a henna evening. And if you want, there is another occasion where you again come together, pre-wedding kind of an occasion. Mm-hmm. We call it nishan. You can do that, but it's optionally. And that's it. So shorter. We have in Turkey you also have rituals, but I guess in India it's a bit more.
Bigger. I think in India everything more.
A bit
the
more.
More the merrier. I think.
Yeah, it feels like that a bit. Yeah.
I think then it will be for you very, very funny, interesting, and fun. I think it's.
I think I would enjoy it. Yeah.
All in once.
Yeah.
All right. So one bad and one good experience where you have been to a wedding where you had to wear something. It was like, do I have to wear this? Or is there anything? Because in Germany, people have different kind of cultural wedding things because otherwise they just wear something, suits and dress. But have you been in any weddings where you said, this is kind of weird? You don't have to specify who, but just is there something?
Yeah,
maybe weird sounds a bit
I
bad, but something you would say,
different, right?
Different, and you said, interesting. I wouldn't do it on my wedding this way, but you know.
Yeah, I think I've been to some German weddings, not too many, but a couple of ones of friends. And what I noticed there too, which I was thinking, okay, this is really different, is the dress code, perhaps I would say. Of course, at a German wedding, it's also true for a Turkish wedding. You would not wear white because white is the color of the bride.
So you'll have another fight if you wear white.
Yeah, you don't want to have that. Which is totally fair, I understand.
Yeah.
But what I got to know or saw on friends' weddings, German weddings, is also that you would try not to outshine the bride. This is a common saying, I think, in Germany, where you'd say, I don't want to outshine the bride, which I also, again, totally understand.
Understandable, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but when I compare it to Turkish and Indian culture, you need to dress up. Like, if you're not dressing up, it is a sign of,
you're not giving a lot of effort into it.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, wow.
So that's different in German weddings, where I feel like as a guest to the wedding, it doesn't really, you would also a bit dress up, but not too much. You don't never ever outshine anyone. And in my culture, or in the Indian culture, what I saw is not the difference. You still won't outshine, but because the bride is already so shining, you can't outshine. Right?
You cannot outshine her.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And in Germany, it's more this: I want to look natural. I want to look like as if I'm like every day, and it's a bit.
Yeah,
different.
the wedding's also not that long, so I think
Yes.
it makes sense.
Exactly.
Okay, we are reaching the end slowly, and I have one question. What advice would you give someone who is trying to find out about other cultures but is a bit too shy to go and figure out some stuff about other cultures?
I think with a respectful attitude, there's nothing to do wrong, right? I would definitely just go into it. Like, if it's a culture and you have someone around you who is from that culture, again, be aware of some no-goes, right? Do educate yourself, please, because there might be some stuff with what you can, you can hurt someone indeed, and that should be a basis. Like, a bit educate yourself. There's wide world web. Just use it. Please Google it. But then really, if you have someone around you, just go to that person, try to interact, but not in a like, you're from that country. I heard you're doing this. Is that even, what do you think about that?
Like pulling out the stereotype things.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. I'm used to these kind of, or got these kind of questions a lot too, where I felt like, okay, you don't have a really honest
understanding for it. Yeah.
No understanding and no honest interest in knowing about it.
It's also
you're just being judgy.
Not a way to go, by the way.
No, definitely don't do it. Don't do it, seriously. But instead, really show honest interest. Go to the country, because people living abroad might be a bit still different. I'm not talking about people coming as expatriates for 1-2 years to another country. I'm not talking about these kind of people, but for example, me, I have a Turkish background for sure, but I'm sure also there are some things which other Turkish people originally coming also from Turkey and living there would see differently than me. Being aware of that, so that's why I would always advise go to the country and explore the country, and you will automatically, I think, if you're open-minded, explore the people there too and the culture itself.
All right. So thank you, Merve, for sharing these insights and experience of your life with us and viewers and listeners. It's been a pleasure. I really, really appreciate it. Do you have any last thoughts you want to give out?
Just want to give back to the people, like, from whatever culture you are or from whatever part of the world, I totally believe there is some common ground we all people can agree on.
Nice.
also whatever, as said, whatever culture, but also religion, even though it feels sometimes so different from each other, there is a common ground. And I would definitely focus on this common ground rather than on these teeny tiny details which are alienating or really building like kind of walls between us, but really come back to this common ground, because
take the good stuff and then
definitely
explore
focus on that, focus on the good stuff.
All right. So I have, before we end this, I have one culture. I always say it on this podcast. I have a small book here where you will have to write a question without knowing the question, without knowing from who the question will be or who's going to answer it.
Oh, okay.
And some of my guests also wrote some questions, so you would have to read the last one.
Okay.
And answer it, and then put one of your question on this book.
I love it.
Yeah? Okay, let's go. So which would be, would be the second one. Just open it and read it out loud and then answer it. And then...
The second one, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you cope with cultural shocks? Okay.
Nice one. Nice one.
Indeed, when I have a culture shock, my instinct is always going a couple of steps back, like, because that's something I'm like, okay, I'm overwhelmed.
Okay.
But then I start thinking, okay, what is happening right now? Right? When I talked about this guy in the bus talking to me or randomly asking me like questions, like to me, private questions, like, where you going? I was like, I couldn't answer. I didn't want to be mean, but I didn't really answer him and turn around basically. But back home, perhaps 1-2 days later, I thought about it. What really annoyed me in that situation? And I felt, okay, it's not part what I used to.
Okay.
And then I noticed how much the perhaps German, Turkish, whatever, influenced you. And then I thought, do I want it to influence me that much? Or do I want to be like the guy in the bus and say, I want to be open to people and just talk and just ask, hey, you have a nice hair. Where did you get it from? Just randomly to people.
It's interesting because you never know what kind of person you will meet. Also, not only good, so there's also bad. But you can also get to some good stuff. So.
Definitely pick it up if it's good stuff, whatever culture, pick it up.
Nice. All right, then. Thank you again, Merve. And thank you for you guys to listen and watch. This was Unfiltered Culture. And until next time, see you. And I want you to write a question. And then the question will be asked on the next episode, whoever's sitting in that chair. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Peace.